Hola, muy buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están? Yo estoy muy bien aquí en la casa y hoy vamos a hablar de los verbos en el pretérito, el tiempo pretérito. Entonces, el tiempo pretérito es un tiempo en el pasado, ¿no? Todavía, hasta hoy, up to today, en el español solo sabemos el tiempo presente, ¿no? El tiempo presente. Y hoy vamos a hablar del tiempo pretérito, ¿no? Ok, muy bien, adelante, vamos a empezar. Pero primero quiero mostrarles como una forma, como distinguir entre los dos tiempos en el pasado, porque el español tiene dos formas en el pasado. Primero tenemos el pretérito y también tenemos el imperfecto y el pretérito. So the preterite and the imperfect, okay? And they're quite different in their use. Son muy distintos estos tiempos verbales porque el pretérito habla de una cosa que ya está cumplida, ¿no? Talks about something that's already been completed, finished, that has a clear beginning and an end, something that has, you can follow on a timeline, a timestamp, okay? So I often look at the preterite like a picture, like a photograph. So if you're looking on like a timeline, right? Um, you would look at the preterite like this, right? It's a timeline. It has a clear point, right? So this would be the preterite, right? Like yesterday, ayer hice la tarea, o ayer pasé por la tienda. Yesterday, I went by the store. Or el otro día, caminamos a la tienda, right? Or so it's something that's has a clear beginning and an end. You're talking about the recent past typically, or something that has just been completed. Whereas the imperfect would be more like the entire timeline itself, right? That would be the entire timeline. So I call the imperfect like the grandparent tense. You know, you've talked to your grandparents before. They're like, well, back in my day, I used to do this. So the preterite would be like, yesterday I played basketball. Ayer jugué al baloncesto. Pero the imperfect, el imperfecto, sería como cuando era niño, when I was a child, or de niño, yo siempre jugaba al baloncesto. So I always used to play basketball. Whereas the preterite is just that one point on a timeline. We know when it started, we know it's over. So it's very clear that it is a completed action. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our PowerPoint here. And we're going to learn these tenses today. Now, it's very imperative that you practice these tenses a lot, because they're not something that's going to come very easily. Your conjugations for your present tense verbs, you know, you have to practice those quite a bit in order to be able to understand them, but you're also going to have to practice these preterite conjugations. Okay, so today we're going to focus on regular preterite verbs, but there are also some irregular preterite verbs. So let me go ahead and bring up my screen really quick. All right. So here's our PowerPoint. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. So now, in order to talk about events in el pasado, el español utilizes or uses, utiliza dos tiempos, times, essentially what you're saying, tenses, simples. Tenemos primero el pretérito y también tenemos el imperfecto, ¿ok? Y como les dije, como mencioné, that's in the past, right? As I mentioned, so that'll be a preterite verb. Como mencioné, el pretérito es una acción cumplida, una acción terminada, a finished or completed action. Y en esta lección vamos a aprender cómo usar y cómo conjugar o formar el tiempo en el pretérito, ¿ok? So we use this tense to express actions or states that are completed in the past, ¿ok? Entonces aquí tenemos las conjugaciones, okay? So go ahead and take a minute and look at your lecture notes and take a minute to go ahead and write these conjugations down. Pause the video, and get these down so you can start learning them. So go ahead and take a minute to write these conjugations down for these 3 verbs. Okay, now after you've done that, let's go ahead and take a look at the endings, okay? One thing that I like to do is I like to compare other tenses to how they are in the present tense, because I want you start to see some patterns form over the scheme of things, or over the entire array of conjugations in Spanish. So, tenemos aquí primero yo in AR verbs, okay? Now, if we look at these, we can see that our ER verbs and our IR verbs have the same conjugations. Vendí, vendiste, vendió, vendimos, vendieron. And our IR verbs also are the same as our ER verbs. Escribí, escribiste, escribió, escribimos, y escribieron. Okay? Now, this is different from our present tense conjugations because remember, if we're conjugating a present verb, present tense ER verb, and we are using the nosotros or nosotras form, that would be vendemos. So one thing you can take a look at here is that escribimos is the same as in the past tense, or excuse me, in the present tense as it is in the preterite. Compramos, same as in the present tense as it is in the preterite, okay? So what are we going to do to be able to differentiate between the preterite and the present tense when we're using these conjugations that are the same in our in our AR, in Spanish it's ER, IR verbs for the nosotros form, the nosotras form, okay? We're gonna have to think of context because if we do not think about our context, we're not going to be able to know whether we're speaking in the past or the present because it's the same spelling, same conjugation, right? Okay, however, the ER form will be the same as the IR form here, vendimos, and then the present tense is vendemos, right? Vendemos. Muy bien. So that's one thing that stands out to me. The other thing, typically when you're talking about 2 conjugations, you're using some type of S in almost every 2 conjugation there is in Spanish for all the different verb forms, okay? So we have an S in that conjugation, okay? Also, with our ustedes, ellos, ellas form, almost always we have an N on the ending of our ustedes, ellos, ellas forms, regardless of the verb tense, okay? So that's just something I used to remember. I know that compraron is going to be a ellos or ellas tense, and I know that compraste, usually those things with ese, right? Ese is going to be the tu form, okay? So there's a song I learned to memorize these when I was little, so I'm going to go ahead and embarrass myself really quick. So for the AR verbs, it's hasta o, amos Aaron, el pretérito. I know I have a great voice, thank you. And then for our IR verbs, I know it's silly, guys, but honestly, I learned that in the 7th grade and never forgot it after that. So it really helped me solidify my conjugations for the preterite forms. And I'm not worried about getting embarrassed in front of you guys. It's all right, it's my job, right? And then the IR verbs, we have vender, escribir. So our endings are iste, yo, iste, yo, imos, yieron, iste, yo. Okay, I know it's silly, but things like that, mnemonic devices, really have helped me improve over the years and really helped me remember a lot of these tenses and verb forms and so on. So we have compré. Go ahead and repeat after me. Compré, compraste, compró, compramos, compraron. Vender would be vendí, vendiste, vendió, vendimos, vendieron. And escribir would be escribí, escribiste, escribió, escribimos, y escribieron. Now let's take another look at some of the peculiarities here we see in the preterite tense, okay? What are some other things you notice that are different from our present tense verbs, especially on the endings? Okay, one thing that I notice is that we have accents here. Right? And remember, an accent does 3 things. 1, it can differentiate between 2 words that are spelled the same. 2, it can signify an interrogative word, meaning a question word. And 3, it can tell you where to stress, what syllable to stress when you pronounce a word. So in this case, we're talking about the stress of a syllable, but also here in the subjunctive tense, for our AR verbs, for the yo form, it would be compre, right? Él quiere que yo le compre un abrigo. That's way off. That's not until Spanish 2201, but just wanted to make that clear as well. So in this sense, we're putting that stress on the last syllable here. So it's compre, right? Compraste. Not on the last syllable. No accent needed. Compró. On the last syllable, we need a accent right there. Compramos. No, there we do not need an accent. And then finally, compraron. No accent needed. So on the yo and the usted, el, ella form, there will always be a, well, not always. There's a couple of verbs that do not use the accents on the preterite tense in the yo and the usted, el, ella form. But on the whole, the yo and the usted, el, ella, the first and third person singular forms will have an accent on them in the preterite. Okay, let's move on. Now, well, there we go. As I said, the yo y usted, el, ella forms of all 3 conjugations have written accents on the last syllable to show that it is stressed, but also it does help us identify that it is different from another word that is spelled the same. For example, compre, compré, right? Compre, compré, okay? And as the chart shows, the endings for regular ER and IR verbs are identical in the preterite, okay? So as we can see, identical endings here in the preterite, not so in the present because the nosotros form is different. Vendemos in the past, or in the preterite, vendimos. Okay, muy bien. So, if we were talking to someone, we could say, ¿Qué compraste? ¿Qué compraste? What did you buy? What did you buy? Compré estos aretes. Compré estos aretes. Okay, muy bien. So we'll have some questions that you guys are going to answer after in an audio assignment that will be dealing with these verb tenses. Okay, muy bien. Bien. Okay, now let's take a note that the nosotros, nosotras forms of regular AR and IR verbs in the preterite are identical to the present tense forms, and context is going to help us determine which tense is being used, but the ER tense is not identical to the present tense. AR and ER verbs have a stem change that have a stem change in the present tense are regular in the preterite. Thank the Lord, right? Thank goodness. But just wait, because the IR verbs will be coming in a couple of weeks, and they are irregular in the preterite. Okay, but our AR and ER verbs that have a stem change in the present tense are regular in the preterite. That's kind of nice. They do not have a stem change. For example, here we have an E to I stem changer, cerrar, right? Cerrar. Okay, la tienda cierra a las 6. La tienda cerró a las 6. Okay, so no stem change. Carlitos vuelve tarde. Carlitos volvió tarde. Volvió tarde. Él juega al fútbol. Él jugó al fútbol. Okay? There's another word that we know that's jugo, right? El jugo, juice, right? Juice. Él jugó al fútbol. Es distinto, ¿no? Es distinto. Bien. Okay, now, IR verbs that have a stem change in the present tense also have a stem change in the preterite. So we didn't get off scot-free, but we will get to those in another chapter. Now, there are several verbs that end in gar, zar, and they have a spelling change in the first person yo form in the preterite, first person singular form in the preterite, right? The yo form. Okay, and that's because there's going to be a sound change if we do not change the spelling of these. So let's look. If we were to write, this verb, buscar, following the rules, right? It would look like this, buscar, right? If we were to follow the rules, all right, hasta o, remember, drop the final AR, drop the ending, hasta o, almostaron. Okay, so we're at, let's say because this is only the yo form for the cargar and zar verbs, right? So right? So it would be, if we're following the rules, there was no change. Now remember, from last semester, you saw that buscar, right? It's a hard C because it's followed with an A, right? Buscar, okay? But when a C and an E are when an E is following the C, it is a soft sound, right? So this would be busé, right? Busé. So we want to maintain that sound, and we would say busque, right? We want to keep that that hard C following that A, with the A following, right? So we have to make a change. So that's our K cars, right? We also have a verb like empezar, right? Same thing here. Empecé. So that's a Cesar. So we have K car, Cesar, and let's do llegar, right? Llegar, right? Now, so if we were to write llegar, following the rules, it would be yeje, right? Yeje. We want to maintain that hard consonant. We want to say llegar, llegue, right? So we have to include that U to make that hard G sound. Llegue. Muy bien. Muy bien. All right, back to our PowerPoint here. Bien, adelante. Okay, now, so we've got our cars, our gars, and our zars. So it's K-car, Gegar, Cesar. K-car, Gegar, Cesar. So busqué, llegué, empecé. Okay, and that's for all car, gar, zar verbs in the preterite tense in the first person singular form. That's the only time. Because if you follow the conjugations for the rest of them, it works, right? Because you're not using that E, okay, haste, that would be buscaste, o, buscó, buscamos, buscaron, right? So all those are either A or O, right? Which would maintain the hard consonant sound. Okay, very good. Now, except for the yo form, all other forms of car, gar, and zar verbs are regular in the preterite. Okay, muy bien. And we also have three other verbs, creer, leer, and oír, and they have spelling changes in the preterite. Okay, and oír is an IR verb, but it's such a short verb that it's a little bit strange usually, and it's often an irregular verb. Okay, now, because these have back-to-back vowels, right? Because these have back-to-back vowels, there's going to be a spelling change needed. Okay, now the I of the verb endings of creer, leer, and oír carries an accent in the yo y tú in the nosotros form and the vosotras form, but changes to a Y in the usted, el, ella, and the ustedes, ellos, ellas form. Okay, so we take a look here. Now, the reason we put an accent here is because we want to not create a diphthong in these words, right? We want to make sure we pronounce these vowels separately. Okay, we want to say creí, not creí, right? Or creíste. It could sound like creíste if they did not have the I there, the accent on the I. So creí, creíste, creyó. Okay, now let's take a look. If we were to follow the rules of the normal conjugations, our conjugation would look something like this. Okay, for creer, creyó. That's just so hard to say. And we've talked about the articulatory force, if you've had me before. The articulatory force required to say a certain word. Why do they make articulatory so hard to say? I don't know. But anyway, the articulatory force required to say a certain string of syllables, which Latin was famous for. It was incredibly hard because it's full of declensions and basically add-ons on the end of the words, because the articles and the cases are included in the word. This would be very hard to say. Creyó, creyó. So that's why many centuries ago, people got lazy and they just said creyó, creyó, and that manifests itself now into the writing system. So that would be creyó, leyó, right? And this is only in the third person forms, because remember, if we were to follow the rules, creyeron, really hard to say, creyeron, right? Okay. Also, let's see, leer, right? Leer, we want to say leyó, right? Leyeron. Okay, muy bien. And it's basically just to make sure that we're pronouncing those words correctly. All right, so continuing on. Here we have creí, creíste, creyó, creímos, creístes, creyeron. Leí, leíste, leyó, leímos, leyeron. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet to you guys, for those who have not had me before in the past. I don't require that you learn the vosotros form because you really only find that form in Spain, and typically you will not need to use it. I never use it. I don't see the need to use it here unless I'm speaking with a Spanish speaker, and even then they can understand me just fine. So I do not use the vosotros form, and as such, I do not expect you all to learn the vosotros form. It's only about 45 million people in the world that use it. Compared to the population of Mexico and the US, that's probably quadruple of the population of Spain, so of Spanish speakers. So we just say ustedes, you all, right? Even though the vosotros is the second person plural, a little less formal than ustedes. Ustedes is kind of like a one-size-fits-all in Latin America. It's for like a less formal version of you all, and it's also for a more formal version of you all. Okay. También para leer tenemos aquí leí, leíste, leyó, leímos, leyeron, oí, oíste, oyó, oímos, oyeron. Muy bien. Okay, now, ver is regular in the preterite, but none of its forms have an accent. And that's what I was saying. So none of its forms has an accent. That's what I was saying. There are a couple of verbs in the preterite that do not use an accent on the third person and first person singular forms. And this is one of them. Ver. So it's viste, vio, vimos, vieron. Ver is often an irregular verb because it is so short. Typically, if you see verbs like ser, ver, ir, estar, oír, those shorter verbs typically are irregular because it's not, you don't have a lot of room to fit in the conjugations. So usually those shorter verbs are irregular. All right, now look here at the words commonly used with the preterite. And let's think about this, because remember, el pretérito lo usamos para una acción cumplida, una acción terminada, right? A completed or finished action. So that we're talking about last night, yesterday, the day before yesterday, suddenly, from, until, pasado, el pasado miércoles, o el año pasado, or la semana pasada, last week, una vez, dos veces, ya, right? So things like this. And that's going to clue us in that we are going to be using the preterite, because if you say something like last night, you wouldn't say, last night I used to go to the park. No, last night I went to the park, right? Okay, so here are verb words commonly used with the preterite. Take a minute to write those down. Pause the video if you need. Okay, now, last thing here, acabar de. Now, this is a way to kind of talk about something that has just occurred. If you say acabar de, and then plus an infinitive, and remember, an infinitive is something like to play, to buy, to go, to listen, to talk, to read, right? Leer, to study, estudiar, okay? So that would be our infinitives, A-R-E-R, I-R endings, things we conjugate, right? So we're going to use acabar de plus infinitive, and that's kind of like saying I just did something. However, construction is going to be in the present tense, right? Okay, so acabar, it really means, acabar means to like finish something, right? Or like I just did something, okay? So, acabo de comprar una falda. I just bought a skirt, okay? Acabo de enseñarles el tiempo pretérito. Acabamos de aprender sobre el español. So, acabas de ir de compras. You just did this. You just went shopping. You just learned the preterite tense, okay? So, it's a very useful phrase to be able to say, acabo de ir a la tienda. Acabo de ir a la oficina de Professor Bowers. I hope we get back on campus for the fall. I miss seeing all you guys. So this is a very useful tense as well, but make sure you practice your preterite tense, okay? Make sure you drill yourself with that. Make some flashcards, practice verb conjugations, make a chart, and you can fill in all your endings, and just really practice with these, because it will definitely expand your ability to communicate with people in Spanish. It's very useful to be able to speak about not only something in the present, but something in the past. So, bueno, muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy y nos vemos pronto. Adiós. Gracias.